Good morning. Welcome to Church of the Total Man, a church for men. Today we're going through Proverbs chapter 13. So get a Bible, get a cup of coffee, or just sit back and listen to wisdom of the ages. Proverbs chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 13. A wise son hears his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. First question I ask is, what if a son doesn't have a father? What if the father is not present? What if the son is prevented from seeing the father? What if the father is prevented from seeing the son? Then you end up with surrogate fathers, father figures. A son is naturally drawn towards wisdom in older men as father figures. A wise son hears his father's instruction. Is it the father's instruction that makes the son wise, or does the wise son gravitate and hear the father's instruction? I think it's both. A wise son hears his father's instruction. I think that is why we have on the rise a series of father figures all over the internet, all over YouTube, of older men just talking wisdom about life, marriage, relationships, divorce, breakup, that type of thing. And a lot of people are really, really hungry for it. But here it says it makes them wise. Listening to instruction makes you wise, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. Not every instruction is rebuke. I think included in instruction is rebuke, and also praise and exhortation and building up and edifying, not tearing down. But I think instruction has multiple modes, and one of those modes is rebuke. From the fruit of his mouth a man eats what is good, but the desire of the treacherous is for violence. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. Your words ever get you in trouble? He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. Sometimes it's best not to say anything at all. The soul of the sluggard, the lazy person, craves and gets nothing. Nothing happens when you're lazy. You just have desire. You just have want. You just want the house. You just want the nice clothes. You just want the lady. You just want whatever. Fill in the blank. But the lazy person gets none of that. While the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. The grind, the hustle, words that I can't stand, and words that are just way overused. But the reality is, when you do the work, you are richly supplied, magically supplied. Hey, I want what that person has, which is probably not a good thing, right? I want what that person has, or I want this lifestyle. It comes from being diligent, not from being lazy. The 8-hour workday. I always laugh at the 8-hour workday. I believe we are meant to work from sun up to sundown. That's my personal opinion. I think an 8-hour workday is a thing of the Western world. And it's difficult to reach your goals working just 8 hours a day. There's 168 hours in a week. How are you going to divide them up between work, sleep, raising a family, nurturing children, nurturing a wife? How is that going to happen? You have to figure out how you're going to spend your 168 hours. I have 168 hours in my week. You don't have any less. You don't have any more. Neither does Jeff Bezos. Neither does Elon Musk. They all have 168 hours in a week. How is it that two people who have the same amount of hours in a day, the same amount of hours in a week, can have different results in life? Think about that. The righteous hates falsehood, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but sin overthrows the wicked. You get caught up when you sin. You get caught up in things, and you get overthrown. You get taken over by desires. You get taken over by just being controlled by substances and being controlled by people. Part of being a righteous man is to not be controlled by others, not be controlled by desires, by vices. Being a virtuous man literally is something you have to work diligently on. It just doesn't come naturally to people. Virtue does not come naturally to people. This is why older men need to teach younger men. This is why older women need to teach younger women. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. Pretty interesting, right? How many people just brag about stuff? Flash watches and cars and private jets and clothing and this kind of stuff. Pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Or, what do riches really bring? Nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. I like the idea of acting and appearing poorer than you are. Not even accurate. I'm not talking about exaggerating. I'm not talking about accurately representing yourself. You have no obligation to show anyone any of your wealth or how you are. But I like the idea of at least underrepresenting and let it be a surprise to everybody. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. Righteousness people have lanterns. They lead the way. What do they lead the way with? I think there's a psalm that says, "The Lord is a light unto my feet, lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path." I believe that's the light of the righteous, the Lord. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. By insolence comes nothing but strife, but with those who take advice is wisdom. That is why you're here. That is why I look to older and wiser people. Every man is a teacher. Every man is a student. If you find someone who has learned everything and has nothing left to learn, run as fast as you can in the other direction. That's why I say when it comes to my coaching, when you look for a coach, look for somebody who is being coached. I have a business coach. I have a personal coach guiding me, answering my questions. People much more successful than I am. And I'm helping people who want to be as successful and balanced and have direction in the same way that I do. I have something to teach. That is what I do. I have something to learn. That is also part of what I do. But with those who take advice is wisdom. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle. Getting rich fast. The quick fix. But whoever gathers little by little will increase it. That's interesting, right? Just be on a path where you're stacking and stashing and saving wealth. If you have to buy a half acre at a time, 1 acre at a time, then do it. A lot of people, are into real estate and multifamily dwellings and apartment buildings and buying properties. It starts with buying one, little by little by little. Can't afford the 12 apartment building? Get a twin. Get a double. Live in one, rent out the other. It starts with one, little by little by little. Hope deferred makes the heart grow sick. You heard me talk about that a few months ago. When hope is taken away from you, let's say you had hope for something, for a relationship, for a marriage, for family, for children, for a job, for relocation. When that stuff is stripped away from you, it makes you feel sick. Hence the old phrase that your grandmother might have used, heart sick. Heart sick, feeling discouraged. Hope deferred, hope put off, makes the heart sick. But a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Accomplishment gives us life. Accomplishment. A desire fulfilled, like when we reach a goal. When we finally get to something that we've been thinking about, we worked diligently on it. It's a tree of life. It is life-giving. Achieving goals gives life. You feel discouraged. You feel lifeless. You feel bored. You feel directionless. You need goals. When you attain those goals, it's a tree of life. Let's start working on something. Want to improve your attitude? Approve your goal attainment. What is that? Losing weight? Making more money? Having a wife? Starting a family? Buying a home? Buying a second home? Buying another property? What is it? Getting another certification or degree? Improving your skills? Building your resume? That's a tree of life. Whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself, but he who reveres the commandment will be rewarded. It's not that hard. There's joy in obedience. And you get rewarded for obedience. You don't obey in order to get rewarded. You obey out of love for God. That's where I struggled for years and still do. I stink at being a Christian. I stink at it. I am not good at all at being Christian. But it's something I work at every day. The teaching of the wise is a fountain of life. The one may turn away from one may turn away from the snares of death. Wisdom saves lives. I jokingly say chopsticks save lives, but it's really the wisdom that's coming forward that saves lives. In your toolbox of life, the tools that you have, emotional tools, the mental tools that help you get through life day to day, help you navigate relationships at work, personal relationships with a girlfriend or a wife. Do you have a full set of tools to help you grow? Many people don't have the tools. For many years, I felt like I just didn't have the tools. I just didn't have what it takes. I actually did a video on that once, where I believe I don't have what it takes to reach certain goals. So I either have to get those skills, get those tools, or just resign to the fact that that's not going to happen. That's a ship that has sailed. That's where wisdom comes in. Wisdom is knowing the difference where you're going to succeed and where you're not going to succeed. Good sense wins favor, but the way of the treacherous is their ruin. In everything, the prudent acts with knowledge, but a fool flaunts his folly. Boy, I think all young men have done that at one point. I notice that the older a man gets, for instance, when I was a younger man, my hair was black, like my shirt. Believe it or not, I did have dark hair at one time, and I was a young man at one time. I remember flaunting my folly, flaunting my sin. And I look back on it and I'm like, oh boy, did I really do that? And so much in the men's community, and you know me from being in the men's community, so much of that, I guess the word would be flexing, right? When you flex the watch, when you flex the pretty girls or the gang of girls that are surrounding you. A fool flexes his folly. You don't see people flexing their obedience too much, do you? It's always the foolishness that they flaunt and flex. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful envoy brings healing. I don't like being a bearer of bad news. I remember in the past alerting somebody to what somebody said about them on social media. I was just the messenger. The information did not have its origin with me. I was literally just passing along something that I thought might have been helpful for the person. They ended up equating me with the bad news. So I became a bearer of bad news. And at that point, it took over a year for that relationship to kind of start to feel normal again. They didn't trust me. I ended up bringing them bad news. I want to be a bearer of good news. Poverty and disgrace come to him who ignores instruction. Wow. Conversely, riches and grace will come to those who heed instruction. Boy, that's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. Whoever heeds reproof is honored. This is why everybody needs an advisor, a coach, someone older and wiser to meet with on a regular basis, or a group. Let's start with at least one person in your life. Who is the one person in your life that you're getting some wisdom from? That's telling it like it is, that's dropping some truth. I'm using some popular idioms here. That's dropping truth that will change your life. Who is in your life that does that? A desire fulfilled is sweet to the soul, but to turn away from evil is an abomination to fools. Who do you want to please? Do you want to please the fools or do you want to please God? Ultimately, pleasing God is what brings you riches and grace. And riches aren't always financial. They aren't always about gold and houses and girls and cars and stuff. Sometimes having peace. Peace is a commodity in your life. Remember, last week I said a man settles where he has peace. We want people who bring us peace. We want our homes to be places of peace. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Where'd you hear that before? Right? That's going around the men's community. You become the average of the 5 people you hang out with. If you hang out with 5 losers, you will be the 6th. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Who do you hang with? Who do you watch? What content do you watch on YouTube and other social media platforms? You will become like them. Do you find yourself becoming something that you don't like? Change the food. Change the brain food. It's pretty simple. When you change the food, you start acting different. And you'll get different results. Disaster pursues sinners, but the righteous are rewarded with good. Virtuous men end up having more positive lives. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Wow. So you're not just leaving something to your kids, you're leaving something to your kids' kids, which means that you have to have a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with pursuing something that's going to outlive you. Remember when I said when you are looking for a woman, look for a woman who is a builder. She helps you build that inheritance. She helps you build that castle. She helps you build that empire. People say, build what? You've heard me say it 1,000 times. Build something that will outlive both of you. Look for a builder, not a destroyer. But a sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. A good man leaves an inheritance. All right, so there's 2 different types of men here. There's a good man and a sinner. Those things do not happen by accident. Being a good man is not an accident. You don't wake up and all of a sudden you're a good man. You don't just wake up and you're a sinner. These are decisions that we have to make. We have to make a decision to be a good man. We make decisions that either put us in the sinner category or good man category. What are you choosing today? Good or sin? The fallow ground of the poor would yield much food, but is swept away through injustice. That's a commentary on how injustice is endemic in society. Stuff like that happens, and there's nothing we can do about it. There have always been evil and corrupt governments. There have always been evil and corrupt people, and sometimes the virtuous are victims of those governments and of those evil rulers, evil kings, evil presidents, evil ministers, evil leaders. Sometimes we can be victimized, but the wise person does not gladly bear the title of victim. That's not something you want to be hanging on to very long, victim. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. There's a number of ways to discipline people. A number of ways. And discipline saves people's lives. I know this is a debate in certain communities, but discipline saves lives. How you choose to enact that discipline is up to you. You know what has worked with you. What kind of discipline? When you have been disciplined, what were the effects? What was your attitude? Did you change as a result of discipline? Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is teaching. What is the root word in discipline? Disciple. Learning. That's pretty wild, isn't it? Whoever loves discipline loves righteousness. Think about this here. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him, to turn him into a disciple. Are the people in your life disciples? Do they have discipline? Your children? Your wife? Your girlfriend? Do you gently guide people? Or are you harsh in your teaching? So to discipline people is to disciple them, to make them learn. What are your teaching methods that are the most effective in helping them learn and to be disciples of righteousness and of doing the right thing? It might be the rules of your house require discipline. The righteous has enough to satisfy his appetite, but the belly of the wicked suffers want. The righteous has enough to satisfy his appetite. When you do the right thing, you will have food. When you do the right thing, you will have provision. When you do the right thing, you will have food stored, money stored. A lot of things that this chapter really was about the habits of righteous and good people. And the benefits of being good and righteous are that even your children's children get a blessing, something that you created that outlived you. That's a beautiful thing. Proverbs chapter 13 on Church of the Total Man, a church for men. Thanks for being here today.